My middle school had its own version of Bloody Mary, except she was real. Everyone knows the story of Bloody Mary, and everyone knows how to summon her. Say her name 3 times in front of a mirror with the lights off. Of course, there are slight variations to the exact story, depending on where you live, but it's basically all the same, right? My school was no different. A bunch of us girls in the 7th grade would gather up in the bathroom at least once a week, turn off the lights, and say our name 3 times. Of course, nothing happened, but I always kept my eyes squeezed closed, so even if something did happen, I wouldn't have seen it. We were a bit morbid thinking back on it. I knew that it wouldn't work, but I also knew that we shouldn't be tempting fate. The urban legend states that she could kill you, or scratch your eyes out, so why exactly would we want to try to summon her? I guess kids do stupid things when they're young, but that's no excuse for how far it went. Like I said, it started with a bunch of us in 7th grade doing the ritual, in the bathroom closest to our 4th period class. The 6 of us had all met in 4th period, at the beginning of the year, and since 4th period was right before lunch, we would all slip away and do our ritual without being bothered. Bloody Mary, or Mary as we began to call her, became almost like a long-lost friend of ours. I don't think that my friends knew that I kept my eyes closed though, and I wasn't about to tell them that it was possibly my fault that it wasn't working. Nothing happened over the span of a few months. No Mary appearance, although we tried a bunch of variations. At least until the day that Cassie, the unofficial leader of our little group, ran up to me in a huff outside before school had started. "Hey Nikki," she said, "I found a real way to get Mary to appear. I already told the others, but we've got to meet at the bathroom outside by the pavilions to make it work." I tried to question, to protest, but the bell had rung and she was already walking away. "Just meet us there, okay?" she called over her shoulder. The bathrooms by the pavilions were the worst. It wasn't connected to the main school building, so it had no air conditioning, and even worse, no inside lights. The only source of light was provided by a single flickering bulb and small grates that allowed the sunlight to filter in. And to top it off, the whole place smelled like a porta potty. The outside bathroom was truly awful. But I did as I was told, and met the girls right after the bell rang for lunch. Instead of turning the light off immediately though, Cassie gathered us all up in front of the row of sinks. Gesturing to the middle sink and the row of 5, she said, "I finally figured it out. My brother's girlfriend came over the other night, and she said that she and her friends were able to see Mary here." "And she lived? Why here, of any other mirror? What did she say? What happened?" Bethany, Nia, and Erica all spoke at once, and Cassie waved a dismissive hand. She didn't go into much detail because my parents were out, and she was going into my brother's room, but she said that we first have to acknowledge Mary's baby, and then it'll work. "Mary's baby?" I asked, not quite understanding, but definitely not wanting anything to do with a ghost baby. "Yeah, that's what she said. It'll take a few days, but she said for sure it will work." "Okay, how do we do it then?" Nia chimed in from the back. I was already somewhat apprehensive being in the very isolated, very creepy outside bathroom, but I felt my stomach immediately drop when Cassie said, "First we have to summon Mary's baby." My body instantly wanted to flee, and I wish that I had trusted my instincts. Instead, I stayed silent and let Nia ask, "Wait, I thought that Mary killed her babies, didn't she?" "Well, yeah, but in death she still wants them," Cassie replied. "I guess." "Okay, so how do we do this baby thing, and why do we have to do it here?" Erica asked, her nose scrunching up at the smell. Cassie sighed and said, "I don't know. Tyler's girlfriend said something about the baby being born prematurely and being stuffed down the sink without anybody knowing." Bethany opened her mouth to say something, but Cassie continued. "I know, okay? It sounds dumb, but she said it worked. And what we've been doing hasn't, so we can at least try it, right?" We all shrugged in agreement, and after looking at each of us directly, Cassie began again. "Okay, so first we have to have the water on, cold only." She turned on the tap, then pointed at Bethany, who was closest to the door. "Then lock the door, turn the light off." When Bethany did so, Kathy instructed all of us to gather in front of the dirty mirror above the running middle sink. "Okay, now hold your arms like you're holding a little baby. Look straight in the mirror and rock your arms back and forth while I say the words. We should feel a weight in our arms, and then we have to release it over the sink like Mary did. Ready?" She looked at her reflections in the mirror, gave a nod in response to ours, and began to recite. "Baby blue, your mommy's gone away. Baby blue, please come here to stay. Baby Blue, we'll care for you. We're sorry your mommy could not. Baby Blue, please come to us. We promise you won't rot. Baby Blue, your mommy's gone, but we will heal your pain. Baby Blue, please come to us. Your mommy is insane. The rhyme itself was disturbing, but even worse was the squeal that rang out from the faucet almost as soon as Cassie had finished her recitations. Surely it was the sound of a whining pipe, but it sounded sort of like a baby crying. Now, Cassie yelled, and we all released our arms and bolted towards the door. Once safely outside, Cassie looked at us and grinned. I think it worked. We had to do this again, every day for the next week or so, but I think it worked. We all looked at each other, unsure if we had all experienced the same thing, and then Bethany spoke up. What was that sound? Was it the baby or just the pipes? Cassie shrugged. I don't know, but once we finish this, it's really going to work. Let's meet here at the same time tomorrow. With that, she turned and began walking away to the cafeteria, and we all slowly followed. The next day, we met at the outside bathroom again at the same time. This time, when Cassie turned on the faucet, the squealing began immediately. It truly sounded like a baby crying, and I was freaking out immediately. But Cassie shut down my objections and told Bethany to lock the door and turn off the light. As soon as the lights were off, I squeezed my eyes shut. Cassie recited her poem, and I tried my best to block out the sound of the crying baby squeal of the water faucet. What I couldn't brush off, though, was the weight that I had suddenly felt placed in my cradled arms. When Cassie said now, I was the first to the door. I tried to ask the girls about it later, but none of them would honestly answer whether or not the pipe sounded like a crying baby, or if any of them had felt the weight in their arms. We repeated this for the next few days, but I no longer cradled my arms. I may have imagined it, but I did not want to feel that weight again. After Friday's ritual, Cassie grinned at us all and said, Monday should be the final one. We'll finally see Mary. We all talked over the phone during the week, but Erica was the only one who felt something similar to the apprehension that I did. She didn't tell the others, though, only me. So when Monday came around, I guess I wasn't the only one feeling the growing dread in the pit of my stomach. The clock ticked by, and the anxiety grew worse, until it was finally time. I felt like I was going to vomit. We all met up at the bathroom and followed Cassie in. Her confidence seemed to spread throughout us, and while it did help a bit, I felt like the other girls had gotten the majority of it. I still ended up in front of that mirror, terrified. Cassie turned the sink on, and I didn't even wait for Bethany to turn the lights on before I closed my eyes. The sound of the baby crying again, almost at the same time that Cassie began to recite the poem. Baby Blue, your mommy's gone away. Baby Blue, please come here to stay. Baby Blue, we'll care for you. We're sorry your mommy could not. Baby Blue, please come to us. We promise that you won't rot. Baby Blue, your mommy's gone, but we will heal your pain. Baby Blue, please come to us. Your mommy is insane. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room in an instant, and I fought to breathe through the hot thickness. I heard someone whimper softly. Erica, maybe, but I refused to open my eyes, and so I couldn't be sure. I stood completely motionless with Cassie and Nia on my left, Bethany and Erica on my right. The events that followed are something that I only allow myself to think of in my darkest moments, but that will always be imprinted on my mind. Drop the baby, Cassie yelled at the same time that someone on my right began to scream. Shortly afterwards, someone else, I think it was Nia, began to scream as well. Drop the baby now, Cassie yelled out again, and through the screams I heard a new sound. It sounded like an old t-shirt being ripped up, but as if the fabric was wet. No, someone screamed, and there was a new sound, a bubbling, gurgling, wet noise. I wrapped my arms around myself, and I took a step back from the other girls. The ripping sound increased in frequency, and the cry of the baby became more shrill. Mary, I heard Cassie mutter, followed by another scream. My eyes, someone on my right yelled out, and I couldn't take any more. I raced towards the bathroom door, blindly running my hands against it to find the deadbolt. There was a horrible, wet snarling sound behind me, and I had just touched my fingers against the cold of the metal lock when I felt something grab me by the shoulder, send a searing pain down my arm, before I felt my body being thrown backwards. I must have hit my head because I passed out soon afterwards. I woke up in the hospital with my parents by my side. We were soon joined by police officers who wanted to talk to me about what happened. My father tried to protest. She's been unconscious for 5 days, and she's obviously been traumatized. Can't this wait? Sir, I understand that this has been troubling, the officer replied. But how would you feel if you were the father of one of the other girls? Please, sir, she may be able to provide crucial information about all of this. My father stepped aside with a sigh, and let one of the officers approach my hospital bed. Hi, Nikki, he said with a soft smile. I need to ask you about what went on in the bathroom, about what happened to you and your friends. Do you think you could do that for me? I nodded slightly before asking, Did anything happen to my friends? Are they okay? The officer's eyes briefly darted away from me, and I continued. You aren't going to believe me when I tell you, and I didn't see anything anyways because my eyes were shut the entire time. I really, truly did not see anything. I promise. I only heard things. The policeman continued smiling warmly and said, It's okay, Nikki. Just tell me everything that you heard then. I told him the entire story, about Mary, and our ritual. And as it went on, my parents' faces became more horrified. I was embarrassed, and I was ashamed, but mostly I was scared of what may have happened to Cassie and the others. When I had finished describing everything, I asked the officer about my friends. He apologized and said he wasn't allowed to discuss it with me. The cops left the room, so I asked my parents the same question, and it caused my mom to break out into tears. I ended up not finding anything out until a few weeks later, when I checked in on an inpatient mental health facility for a mandatory stay of at least 90 days. I had no idea what was going on, but I saw a therapist daily to discuss what went on in the bathroom. After the first few days of me repeating the details over and over during our long session, the therapist finally began to discuss what happened with me. Some of my friends had been hurt that day. One of them had died. My therapist really wanted me to name which friend had done this to the rest of us, citing my horribly bruised shoulder as proof that someone physically in the bathroom had done this to us. She wouldn't accept my explanation of Mary. I'm pretty sure she thought it was Cassie. Little by little, my therapist slipped the details. I'm sorry, Nikki, but I just can't accept that something supernatural attacked you and your friends. How then could Bethany be blinded, but not the others? How could Erica's cheek be mutilated at nearly the same time? Do you believe that a supernatural being attacked all of you at the same time, but with different attacks, all within just a few minutes? How would that be possible? I had no answer. During another session, she asked, how then could Nia be murdered directly beside all of you, if the same entity was attacking both Erica and Bethany? Are you sure that you didn't see anything at all? And at another, she said, Nikki, Nia was standing on the farthest left side, right next to Cassie. Her body was cut in ribbons. You had your eyes closed the entire time, as you said many times, but you recall Cassie saying things related to Bloody Mary and the ritual, as you call it. Would it be possible that Cassie could have moved without you knowing, say to your right side where Bethany was? It is possible that Cassie had something sharp, like a pair of scissors, something to cut both Nia and Bethany. The therapist refused to acknowledge anything I said. She insisted that I must have been confused hearing Cassie's voice on the left and Bethany's voice on the right at the same time. She said I must have been mistaken when I heard the growling, the snarling, and the terrified voices of my friends as I fumbled to find the lock on the bathroom door. That I must have seen something and couldn't possibly have kept my eyes shut the entire time. The therapist was an idiot. I continued to tell the truth, and after 90 days I was allowed to go home. I had missed Nia's funeral, and I soon found out that Bethany and Erica were leaving the state. Will Cassie have been charged and held responsible for Nia's death? In turn, she was confined to a psychiatric hospital. My parents chose to homeschool me. It's been a decade, and I try not to think about any of this. In fact, I was able to forget about it for a few years. I was able to live my life normally, albeit avoiding mirrors as much as possible. Just living my life and getting by. Until Cassie called me a few days ago. I don't even know how she found my number, but she's left a few voicemails now and hasn't stopped calling. I listened to one voicemail and heard what she wanted, and now I'm trying to convince myself that I want nothing to do with any of it. She has a plan set and I don't want to be involved. I don't. However, I have to admit that I fantasize occasionally about us going back and performing the ritual, this time with video evidence. I always wanted to call Bethany and Erica and ask them what they saw, but I never found the courage. A part of me truly wants to know what happened that day, wants to try again and keep my eyes open this time, but I honestly don't think I can go through with it again. Then again,